All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. It's time to move on to the next Seattle Seahawk rookie. We've got our second round pick here, Bud Clark. He is a safety. He is a slot corner. He does both. He does a lot of both. So we've got a 2-for-1 here, and I think a pretty good 2-for-1. So we're going to start the same way we started yesterday. We're going to do Bud Clark by the numbers. We're going to talk about his abilities and physical makeup, and then we're going to talk about his numbers over his college career. And this could take a while because Bud Clark played 6 seasons in college. Now, he barely played in some of those seasons, but there's a lot of experience here to go over. So this video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and let's go ahead and just get into it now. So like I said, play safety, play slot corner. I think he can do both at a good NFL level. Played for TCU, the Horned Frogs. Another pretty loyal guy, it seems like, because that's where he was his entire career, I believe. And he is going to be 24 in the next few days. So technically he's 23, but he'll be 24 well before he sees an NFL football field. His measurements at the combine were relatively tall by safety standards, 6'1", only 188 pounds. But remember, he probably slimmed down a little bit for the combine. And for a slot corner, that's actually reasonable. Now, for a safety, it's extremely light. But look for him to put some weight on. And he can put weight on. He's tall enough for it. He has the frame for it. So I'm not really worried about this. 31.5-inch arms, which is workable for a safety, 46 inches. Pretty much average. For a slot corner, it also works decently. Not really long enough to play on the outside typically, but it's not unheard of. But I don't think that's a conversation we're really having anyway. Has 9-inch hands, kind of small, a little bit on the smaller side, although it does not affect his ability to catch the ball. And he did a few drills at the combine and did fairly well. His 40 was very good for a safety. 4.41 is 90th percentile for a safety. It is worth noting that for a slot corner, it wouldn't be quite as impressive, but it's still perfectly fine. He'll probably lose a little bit of speed when he gains weight, but it's something that he can afford to lose. The 1.56 10-yard split is more mediocre. That's disappointing. A lot of guys this year, by the way, they did not have great 10-yard splits, but they had good 40 times. I don't know what happened this year. So that's not our favorite. And then a 38-inch vert, 79th percentile, so that's very good. So he does have some explosiveness down there. So overall, he is a physically impressive player in some ways, and in other ways, maybe not so much. But I think he needs to pack on some weight, and we'll see how that changes him. It will make him a little bit slower. That is how this works. All right, so let's go through his career now, starting with 2020, but there's really nothing to say about 2020. He was active for TCU in 10 games, but he only played in 13 snaps in one of the games. He had 3 tackles, 8 snaps as a box safety, 5 snaps as a free safety, and 11 of the snaps were in run defense. Only 2 were in coverage. So I didn't look it up, but I'm guessing this was at the end of a game when the game was out of hand and the other team was just running the ball a bunch. PFF grades were pretty bad, but it doesn't mean anything really because it was only 13 snaps. So not really anything to say here. You go to 2021, it's a little bit better. You've got 4 games because he did get hurt and miss most of the season in 2021. And we will come back to the injury thing later, but he at least gave you 124 snaps. So at least he played some. At least he actually put himself out there a little bit. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. 10 tackles, 2 of them were stops. And by the way, remember, Pro Football Focus, a stop is a run play or a tackle you make that is in the context of the play for a short gain. Now, what a short gain is varies depending on the down and distance, but a stop is a productive, effective tackle. Did have 1 penalty. He also missed 2 tackles. But again, we're not dealing with a lot of data here. He got targeted 5 times in coverage, 3 catches allowed 46 yards, 20 of them after the catch. So not great, but again, not really meaningful. And you can see the variety of snaps he offered. 55 of his snaps were as a free safety, a deep safety, 34 in the box, and 34 as a slot corner. So now we're starting to see the variety. About 64 of his snaps were coverage, 59 in run defense, and 1 was rushing the passer. Now, he was not graded well this year at all, but again, small sample size. Now we get into the real stuff in 2022. He played 12 games and was a full-time player for TCU this year. 523 snaps, 45 tackles, including 1 for a loss. So not necessarily a big-time backfield player, but is starting to actually become a full-time part of this defense. 14 of his tackles were stops, which is actually quite good, I think, for a safety like this, because he was playing mostly slot this year, which makes it a little bit easier. But you don't look at Bud Clark and immediately think, oh yeah, this is a great run defender and tackler. But of course, his claim to fame are his interceptions. He had 5 interceptions this year, so averaged about 1 interception per every 105 snaps, 83 return yards, and 1 touchdown. So also did a little bit of work there. 5 passes defense, so he's got a very high rate of converting his pass defensed opportunities into picks. Also recovered a fumble, 8 missed tackles, which for a player like him is not too bad. Picked up 3 penalties. Penalties, little bit of a thing we're going to have to talk about here. The issue here is that his coverage numbers were pretty ugly this year. He allowed about 10 yards per target, not per catch, per target. 56 targets, 552 yards, 38 catches, so he's getting beat pretty badly here. He's making interceptions to help mitigate it, but on the plays where he's not making a play on the ball, he's getting smacked around a little bit. And less than half of those yards are after the catch, so these are some downfield throws. These are some bigger plays. 3 touchdowns allowed. Only an 80.4 QB rating allowed, which is good because of the interceptions, but you see the issues here. This guy's giving up stuff. And for whatever it's worth, this year he was almost exclusively a slot corner. He did do 78 snaps as a free safety, 61 in the box, 15 lined up as an outside corner, which is interesting, but I don't think that'll translate to the NFL at all. It didn't even really translate in college. And 4 as a defensive lineman lined up on the outside as basically an edge rusher, but 364 of his snaps were in the slot. So this guy definitely was a slot corner this year. 280 of his snaps were in coverage, 242 were in run defense, so pretty decent split. 1 as a pass rusher. And you can see the grades start to snap into place here. It's a good, about a 71 PFF, 72 in coverage, 71 as a run defender. So at the very least, capable in all these areas. Slightly above average tackler, 64.6. Gets the job done. I don't think Bud Clark will ever be an amazing tackler, and that's not necessarily a reasonable expectation, but he'll be okay. And I think okay gets it done when you have these other skills. And 59.7 pass rush, but he only had 1 pass rush snap, so I can't say that we really should care about that or weigh anything into it. Same deal next year, 2023, 12 games again, 510 snaps, 33 tackles, so not as many tackles this year for whatever reason, 1 for a loss, 9 stops, so he saw a little bit less work in that regard. He maintained his pretty strong ball hawking skills, 3 picks, had 1 interception return yard, 6 passes defensed, so still making plays on the ball, still a productive cover guy. 14 missed tackles. This is where things started to get a little bit hairy for him as a tackler. 14 missed tackles is a big problem. So 2023, we're checking in here. He's not tackling well. 2 penalties as well. Coverage continues to be a liability here. 58 targets, about 490 yards. So that is over 8 yards per target, I believe. So we have ourselves a little bit of a problem here. Yeah, I just checked to be sure. That's almost 8.5 yards per target, 33 catches. So he doesn't give up a ton of catches, but he's giving up pretty big plays. And a pretty small portion of those yards, like a third of them, were yak. So what that means is that he's getting beat downfield. When he's giving up these catches, they're pretty big downfield plays. And 4 touchdowns. So a lot of these plays are ending up in the end zone. 86 QB rating. Now, again, this year he's mostly a slot corner. Almost 400 snaps in the slot. Only about 98. Not even 100 snaps as a true safety. About split even between free and box. 15 snaps as an outside corner. 3 as a outside defensive lineman, so an edge rusher. More coverage than run defense, but pretty close. 280 coverage, 230 run defense. And he's not graded very well. So 2023 was definitely a disappointing year for him, I would say. 56.9 below replacement level coverage grade, below replacement level run defense grade, and really atrocious tackling grade. So 2023, not a good year for him. Seemed like things were headed in the wrong direction. Luckily, you got 2024. 2024, he started playing way more. He became a true full-time player for TCU. 12 games, 837 snaps. So now he's out there constantly. His snap count goes up by like 60%. And the game number didn't go up. 67 tackles. So now we're talking full-time player, full-time involvement, 15 stops, 3 interceptions, 3 interception return yards, 3 passes defense. So maybe you could nitpick a little bit and say he's not making as many plays on the ball, but he's still taking it away at a pretty good rate. For college football, 3 picks is good. 1 forced fumble as well. Had 1 QB hurry as a pass rusher and only missed 6 tackles. So that is what? That's less than a 10% missed tackle rate. That's actually really good. 3 penalties. So not bad, actually. 3 penalties on this many snaps is totally fine. But the big thing to me is the coverage numbers. 36 targets, 212 yards. So now that's like somewhere around 6 yards per target. That's actually pretty good. 22 catches. So you're still talking about it almost 10 yards per catch. But most of the yards is yak, which is a little bit different to me because now you're talking about a circumstance where the player is making shorter catches and then getting yards after the catch. And that's not just on Bud Clark. There are other players on defense that probably aren't tackling that are leading to these yak yards. And he didn't allow any touchdowns this year in coverage, by the way. So 42.8 rating. Now, here's the thing. In 2024, this was the year he really started playing safety. He played 442 snaps as a box safety, 156 snaps as a free safety, and he was still a slot corner, but only for about 234 snaps. That is about 20 snaps a game. So they moved him, and it seemed like it was to his benefit. Now he's doing multiple roles, and he's doing both significantly, but he's more of a safety than a slot corner. Also had 3 outside corner snaps for whatever that's worth. 1 defensive line snap, 1 as an outside edge rusher. Coverage numbers. 442 coverage snaps, 392 run defense snaps, 3 pass rush snaps. So again, more coverage than run defense, but pretty close. And he was one of the greatest graded players in college football. 89.8, really strong. 90.1 in coverage. This is one of the best cover players in college football now. Excellent run defender, elite tackler, 87 tackling grade, pass rush grade, whatever. He only rushed the passer 3 times all year. Who cares? Not very good, but we don't care about that. Everything else is sterling. So now we've got a stud on our hands. Bud Clark could have come out of college after this year very reasonably, but he came back for 2025. So 2025, he did miss a little bit of time. So he had 11 games and 725 snaps, which is still more than earlier in his career, but not as many as 2024, unfortunately for him. He did get hurt again, and that is something we're going to have to reckon with. So 56 tackles, still a pretty good ratio of tackles to snaps. 1.5 tackles for loss, 13 stops, so about the same ratio as the previous year. 4 interceptions, pretty good. 25 return yards and a touchdown, 7 passes defensed. So he continues to be really good at making sure his opportunities for interceptions turn into interceptions. He also threw in a sack this year. He had 1 sack and 1 QB hit and 2 QB hurries. So a little bit more showing of the pass rush stuff. He missed 9 tackles, so a little bit of a regression there. You don't love that. But when you're a smaller player like Bud Clark is, it's not shocking. 7 penalties, though, that is a big, big step up there, and a bad step up. So, yeah, the penalty thing we're going to have to talk about down the line. But, again, the coverage numbers, pretty good. 41 targets, 256 yards. So, it's not quite as good as the previous year, but it's definitely still workable. It's better than earlier, and I believe it's still under 7 yards per target. I just checked to be sure. It's actually under 6.5. It's actually 6.25. So that's actually totally fine. 27 catches, so a little less than 10 yards per catch. About half of it is yak, so even there it seems a little less punishing and necessarily indicative of what he was doing. Did allow 4 touchdowns, so he gave up some end zone plays. So we don't love that, but still a 76 QB rating when targeted is quite good. I can live with that from a safety / slot corner. And by the way, in 2025, he went back to playing more slot. 313 snaps as a slot corner, 250 as a box, 160 as a free. So doing a lot of both. 1 defensive line snap as an outside rusher, so whatever. 400 coverage snaps, 322 run defense snaps, and 4 pass rush snaps. So again, more coverage than run D, but close, reasonable, what you would expect. But the ability to move from role to role and still do well is very notable here. Very nice PFF grade, very good coverage grade, excellent run D grade. Tackling is good, pass rush is good. Only 4 pass rush snaps, but look at how efficient he was. Look at how good he was at generating productive pressures. So really cool stuff here. And that gets us to our totals here. And we clearly see there's a very clear dichotomy here between Bud Clark and the last guy we looked at, Jadarian Price. Look at how much Bud Clark played. 61 games in college, over 2,700 snaps. That is experience that should allow him to hit the ground running. I don't know what Bud Clark will be in the NFL, but I think that what he will be, we will find out fast, because he is so well-versed in playing football already, because he got so many reps in college. 214 tackles, 3.5 for loss. 53 of his tackles, so about a quarter of them were stops, so they were productive tackles, which is pretty good for a player who plays a lot of safety, I think. 15 interceptions, so big-time ball hawk. 112 return yards and 2 touchdowns, so he does make some big plays wrapped in there. 21 passes defensed, and look at that ratio. He averages, 0.7 interceptions for every 1 pass defensed. Really good. Forced 1 fumble and recovered 1 fumble in his career. Had the 1 sack, 1 QB hit, 3 QB hurries, so he's getting to the QB a little bit here. 39 missed tackles, which overall, it's troubling, but the last 2 years it has gotten a little bit better. But this is something that we're going to need to talk about. The 16 penalties is not so bad in terms of per snap, but the fact that he had 7 last year, that is like 1 penalty every 100 and what would this be? Yeah, 103 snaps. That's a little bit alarming, because the previous year, look at how good it was. More snaps, but only 3 penalties. So the penalties are a notable thing. Got to talk about it. Coverage, got targeted 196 times, allowed 123 catches for about 1,550 yards, which is not very good. But the important thing to keep in mind here is he got a lot better the last 2 years. And most of the bad stuff was done the first 2 years he was actually a full-time player in 2022 and 2023. So context matters. 690 yards allowed after catch, which is, I think, pretty typical. Remember, he plays multiple positions that are going to be asking different things. Did allow 11 touchdowns. We're not thrilled about that. But a 74.2 rating when targeted totally works. You look at the experience he had in college, the thing that jumps out, over 1,300 slot snaps, over 800 box snaps, over 500 free safety snaps. So if you combine box and free, that means you've got about almost the exact same number of slot snaps as you do total safety snaps. So he split his attention across his college career, and he did both at a high level by the end, especially. 33 snaps as an outside corner, 9 snaps as a defensive lineman, all of them as an edge. Almost 1,500 coverage snaps, 1,250 run defense snaps, and 9 pass rush snaps. So that is Bud Clark by the numbers. So Bud Clark, very full college career. You're not going to find a lot of guys out there with 15 interceptions in a college career. Not going to find a lot of guys with this kind of ball hawking, with this experience, and with this versatility across 2 different or even maybe 3 different positions. And you see the improvement from year to year in some of these areas. Okay, so that'll do it for this video, guys. Long video, but he had a long career. All right, later today, we will talk more about Bud Clark by the traits. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys soon. Go Hawks. Everybody have a great rest of your day.